Welcome to the midweek edition of the Sportsline Podcast here on CHCH. We hope that we're becoming a regular part of your daily routine. I'm your host, Bubba O'Neil. Folks, the depth of talented athletes, coaches, executives, broadcasters in the Golden Horseshoe, I say it all the time, it is deep in this region. Today, it's a dream come true for a sports fan who's now a franchise owner. At childhood, this Oakville native was a serious sports fanatic with a plan. Following in the entrepreneurial mindset of his father, Jamie Dawick learned all about the art of conducting business at his family's tour operator and travel agency. When he was good and ready, he dug deep and purchased the Toronto Rock, and let's just say it has been onward and upward for the franchise and the sport of lacrosse in Southern Ontario. Jamie Dawick, oh my goodness, this has been so long. Full disclosure, folks, you and I go back from, I think, the early 90s, maybe a little bit before that, and it is great to have you here to talk about life and catch up a little bit. So much has happened to you. So much good has happened to you. Thanks for coming in.
I appreciate it, man. It's great to see you. I've been following along, obviously, the whole way, but it's been a while. And it's just great to see you. Great to finally catch up and you know, talk about things.
You know, let's talk about lacrosse right off the top here. Let's get an immediate update right now. The team right now, 10-2, doing real well, number one in the NLL, coming off that big West Coast trip to San Diego and Vegas. Very tough games, but very successful out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough weekend to do. Normally we're playing one game, so you're just going out playing one game and coming home. Every once in a while, the way things get drawn up, you do get into a situation like that. So, you know, we flew out Thursday, played in Vegas Friday night, bust to San Diego after the game because it just logically made sense. Played there Saturday night, and then, you know, it was a plan all along to stay an extra day and kind of have a team bonding day. So
Right.
It was real nice to be able to do that kind of coming off a 2-0 weekend. So, yeah, so far so good.
Right on. And I'll tell you, what was so good about that was seeing the team continue to come together. Your number one players are playing so well. You got the likes of a Challen Rogers, who's so good, and he's been in and out with injuries as well, too, but others are stepping up. I mean, I'll tell you, when you acquired the like of Mark Matthews, did you expect to get what you're getting right now?
Well, I mean, we hoped, you know, like Mark's done this before. Mark's the kind of guy, he's won MVPs in this league. He's won championships in this league. I've kind of felt as the GM of the team, one thing we've kind of been lacking a little bit is, you know, since like maybe the days of Colin, but, you know, like a guy that's not scared to, you know, step up when the lights are the brightest, the games are the biggest, the moments, you know, the moment's the biggest. And that was our hope. And, you know, I think he probably, you can see he's kind of finding his groove. He's starting to feel real comfortable with us and the players around him. Feel like he's rejuvenated and, you know, he's been an awesome addition to our team. So, I mean, yeah, we've had some injuries. That's the beauty of things right now is, we've been dealing with a fair bit of adversity with guys being hurt and in and out of our lineup, and it's given the opportunities to some other guys, you know, whether it be young guys or guys that might not have been getting that opportunity. And, you know, we've continued to win throughout that and get a chance to see some of these other guys and see that they can play as well. And so, you know, it's a good kind of problem to have.
Someone that you brought up through the system and kind of nurtured along, and I think you talk about those players that are developing, is your own son and the likes of Josh Dawick. I mean, first, two-part
Well, my
question.
wife kind of, let
there's-
me cut you off there. Like, she's going to want to take all the good credit for him. So, no.
But certainly his skills, I mean, and then we saw this from in his early days in the Oakville program. He's really coming right along, and it's got to be good for you, not only as an owner, general manager kind of guy, but as a dad, too.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it's kind of crazy that it is here. This is year 2 of him with us. Year 1, he was on the practice roster, so for most of the years, so he didn't really travel with us all the time when we were on the road, but yeah, man. I mean, he fell in love with the game early, you know, right around the time I purchased the team. And, you know, I can remember, I'll never forget, I remember being away and my buddy was coaching them in house league. And, he's like, this guy's pretty good, and I'm like, come on, get out of here and whatever. But Josh just fell in love with the game. He worked at it real hard. He had a very successful minor junior career, and he's always kind of had that passion and dream to play in the league. So there's that aspect, and then I'm his father, and but I'm also the GM of the team, and that makes it kind of complicated as well, because this is professional sports, and there's whether you're in and out of whether you're first on the team, whether you're in and out of the lineup. I negotiate a contract with him.
Wow.
I didn't let him negotiate too much.
I was just gonna say, did he have his agent working for you?
Yeah, I'm his agent. So no, you know what? It's been awesome, and go kind of one step further. Is my dad travels with the team and has kind of for the last 10 years, which is really cool. It's really the time we get to spend together. So to have Josh now involved in that as well, it's been really kind of neat. But Josh has really taken the pressure off me as the GM and owner of the team, because he's kind of he's doing his part. He's developing nicely along the kind of pace that we've wanted him to, and continue to do that. And so that kind of erases any of the distraction of him being my son.
Well, because it could have been real difficult if he wasn't playing well, or really wasn't putting in the effort, and
or didn't deserve to maybe be there.
Doesn't deserve to be there, and all of a sudden there's chatter amongst the little groups of the team that he's daddy's son. That
absolutely.
Kind of stuff.
I mean, he'd be lying if you say that. That always at one point or another wasn't in the back of your mind, whether it be on your team internally or whether it be other teams in the league. Believe me, I've heard kids getting chirped, whether it be winter, NLL, or even when they play in the summer leagues, about daddy being the coach or GM or owner or whatever it might be, and that's not good on anyone. That's not good on the parent or the child. To me, it's always been kind of, it's a dream for you to play. It would be great if you got the opportunity to play here, which he did. And, it's for me, it's very rewarding, watching him contribute to our team and be a part of it. And, even as Friday night, we're late in the third quarter in a tight game, him scoring 3 goals in a pretty short span. That's a great team moment, but it's also, I'm very proud of him as his dad as well, and obviously in those situations. So it's been, it's the start of his career, hopefully long career, but so far it's been a lot of fun, real good experience.
On the absolute flip side of that, there was a move that was made this year, probably a personal move by a particular player that had been around the National Lacrosse League and the Toronto Rock for many, many years, and that was the likes of the retirement of a Dan Dawson.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't need to tell you about what he adds to any locker room. Has that been a loss for you guys?
Well, and it's actually, we're honoring him this week at our game, and that's the bobblehead I brought you. He's the Dan Dawson bobblehead week this week, and he, an Oakville kid, played, set all sorts of records in this league. We've been fortunate enough that he's still very involved in our team, kind of took over as a player development kind of coach. Josh would be a guy that's really benefited from, like working with Dan one-on-one a little bit, whether it be in the gym, whether it be on the floor, whether it be talking about, making some healthy lifestyle choices. It's a guy that's been there, very well respected by everyone in the room. And so
in the league.
In the league and everywhere, right. So he's a part of our coaching staff, just not on the bench, more as working with the guys individually, and then obviously around when we're practicing and stuff. So he's still very involved from that standpoint. It was important to me to make sure, we kept him involved with all that, and it's I think you see it paying off in the dividends for sure.
So at this point right now, it's fair to say 6 games left in the season before the playoffs start in May. So the president, the general manager, and the owner is very happy with the way things are going right now at 10-2. But Jamie, we got to go further back here. When I knew you at the time, way back in the day, when we were all trying to figure it out, and in our childhood, I'll say, never did I ever think that you would own a sports franchise. And I mean, I don't say that in a negative way, but I mean, I can't say that about a lot of people, right? Okay? Let's be honest here.
Yeah.
But, okay, you were working real hard at your folks' place in the travel agency and booking trips and executive trips and tours and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Where did the rock thing come from?
Well, so the travel agency kind of right around that time, shortly thereafter, the travel business kind of changed completely with the internet and the way things were kind of done. So I kind of personally got out of that, got involved in a little bit of custom home building here in the Oakville area with Backley Construction, who's still a very big supporter of the Toronto Rock, and bought a bar down in Oakville, and that was probably more a headache than a good thing, really. Like, I know everyone thinks that sounds very appealing, bar restaurant, but it was a lot of headache, a lot of work, and got involved in my best friend. One of my best friends, his brother-in-law is Dan Dawson. Mm-hmm. I was following Dan a lot. Always taught, a big sports guy, just always would want to own, like owning a sports team would be really cool, as you're growing up thinking that I just, some things, I always wanted to do it in my own city. Like I wouldn't want to own a team in another city and whatever. But gotten very involved, kind of following the NLL, following Dan's career along. My kids got very involved in the game. Just was following the league along very well. Never thought that Toronto would be an option. They were so successful when they came into the league, and you don't really know what's going on from afar. Just kind of watching it, you see them win 5 championships in 7 years and stuff like that. But after a few years passed after that time, it was actually Dan Dawson who called me up one day and said, "Hey, I heard the Toronto Rock's for sale, and they're looking to find someone. Do you have any interest in that?" And I think he kind of knew I might, and I'm like, absolutely, because we had talked about owning a team in the league. Mm-hmm. It's just back to my point. I didn't want to own a team in another city. Like, I want to be fully invested and whatever in it. So he kind of put me in touch with the Brad Waters and his kind of group at the time, and 15 years later, here we are.
Does it still, you're almost blushing. Like, is it still amazing for you?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, it's what for me, it's, and it's evolved more than the Toronto Rock with the Toronto Rock Athletic Center and all the things we're doing there with our youth programming and stuff like that, and our wellness center and the team store and all these things. But it's, 15 years later, I love going to work in the morning, man. I get up earlier and earlier as I get older and older. But I mean, to me, it's not, and you think of when you were a kid and your parents used to say, like, well, you'll find something that you really enjoy doing. Mm-hmm. And that's when you'll kind of know. Just like to say, like, when am I going to get married? How am I going to know? You'll just know, like. But for me, it's something I'm still very passionate about. I love it on my day-to-day basis. And I've got some flexibility in my role and where I am and what I'm doing. But I'm a very hands-on. Obviously, I am the GM as well, but I'm a very hands-on, involved owner, and I enjoy every day of it.
Well, I've talked to too many former players, and even some that are still on the roster right now, and they say that, kind of like what you just said there, because we're not talking $1 million athletes.
Yeah.
We're talking about guys kind of CFL in a way, guys that are, some, unless you're really, really big, you're making it in that particular sport, but most have other jobs.
Yeah.
But they see playing lacrosse as a love. They see it as a love. They see it as a passion, and they say playing for the Rock is there's none better. And that's something that obviously an environment that you have set.
Yeah, that's very important to me. I thrive to be that. I want to be, listen, 70% of our league, I think, hails from the Ontario area. So obviously I've got that advantage in the fact that, when these guys want to play at home, if they get the opportunity. But, I want to set the bar in every, I want to be the, we're tied for the most championships in the league history. But, I want to be known as kind of like that flagship franchise and the place that everyone wants to be and the place that wins and the place that takes care of the guys the best and just does everything right the way a franchise, in my opinion, should operate. And I that's a combination of my mentality and definitely some of Terry Sanderson in there on the way to run the team and stuff like that. And I don't want to hear, I just take a lot of pride in people saying, that, the Toronto Rock is a great organization, kind of top to bottom, how they go about themselves, how they do their business, how they take care of their players and be successful, along the way. Because at the end of the day, I mean, that's kind of what we're playing for from that standpoint. Right. So, it's evolved a lot in the 15 years I've been involved in the league. Right. Lots has changed. We're in Hamilton now, I'm excited about the now. I'm excited about the future, and we just gotta, get a few more fans out, win a few more championships, and kind of continue on the path and trajectory that I believe we're on.
We talk about teams that have stable ownership, that have been, just number one sort of franchises in the NLL, and not some of those fly-by-night ones from even the old lacrosse leagues of the past, but one that has been stable, that has been a rival of yours, is those Buffalo Bandits. Yep. I mean, what is it between the Rock and the Bandits?
Honestly, it's just a great rivalry. I mean, their GM of the team right now is, turned out into one of my best friends, was a goalie for the Rock, Steve Dietrich, to call him Chugger, way back in the day. And so it's really weird because, I would say it's a very healthy geographical rivalry. Both teams are generally very competitive, fighting for championships. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we're in a bit of a new format now with the league, but, we were always in the East, generally speaking. Mm-hmm. You had to go through each one just to get to the final. Mm-hmm. The games are just, they're battles. We don't like them, and they don't like us.
Love it.
From an intensity standpoint, it's as good as it gets. I mean, I think there's definitely the respect factor and for what they accomplished there, not only on the floor, off the floor. Mm. And they're owned by the Pagulas and the group, and they own the arena. But Buffalo, they do put on, what I would say to be the gold standard of in-game entertainment, kind of there in front of a packed barn. Mm-hmm. We get them next week in Buffalo, and they're one of our 2 losses this year. They've kind of had our number for the last, 4 or 5 years. So
I remember it. I mean, not to bring up, because, hey, as you well know, the victories are sweet, but sometimes the losses might be even more memorable. I remember one not all that long ago, a playoff game. I think it was game 2, when you guys thought you put the game into overtime.
That happened in game 1 too.
That was game. Oh,
both games that year. They've knocked us out of the playoffs, I believe, the last 3 years. Now listen, they've been a great team, and they still are. Last year they blew us out both games. The year before, both games we scored as clock was expiring in both games. Both were no goals, but and the first, it's been so long I don't even remember what happened the first one of the 3, but we had our run against them in the early part of my kind of ownership group, and our run will come hopefully starting next week when we get them again. But listen, 10-2, it's kind of a fine line, right? Like 10-2 is great. We would love to finish first and have the road to the finals kind of all come through Hamilton and the FirstOntario Centre. But we've gone 13-5 the last 2 years, and we've bowed out to Buffalo in the semifinals both years. And, our legacy and our kind of season's going to be defined on what we do, come May in the playoffs. And
tell the Toronto Maple Leafs that.
Well, I mean, listen, it's true. Like, we can go 13-5 again, and if we do the same thing we've done the last couple of years, it's a good regular season, but really, just the way our league's set up and whatever, you've got to, it's funny, you fight for 5-6 months to finish first and get those home floor games and whatever, but the reality is, then you go into a single game elimination in the first round, and if you don't win the whole thing, it really is just a good regular season. And when the lights were the brightest and the games meant the most and the pressure's the highest, we didn't get it done. And, back to Mark Matthews, who you brought up earlier, a reason why we brought him in, hopefully to, be that calming voice and a guy that can, step up and perform in that situation, but also, maybe calm the team down. Like, hey, let's just do what we do, type deal and whatever. So, listen, team sports is tough to win, man. It's tough to win.
Sure,
I bought the team the first year out of nowhere. We went to the final, and we actually blew a lead that we shouldn't have blown. We gave up an empty net goal at the end of the third quarter and blew a 4-goal lead and lost. Came back the next year, played the same team, won an 8-7 thriller nail biter, and I remember thinking to myself, this is going to be easy. We're going to do this every year. At the time, there was 9 teams. Now there's 15. We've been back to the final once since then, 2015, the year after Terry passed, and we lost in the final to the start of the Rush dynasty. And we haven't been back since, so it's been a lot of motivation. Well, it's been a long time, man, and it's really tough. And then even when you get there, it's tough to win in team sports. That's good for the league. That's good for everyone. As an owner, it sucks. I want to win every year.
Of course you do, and I think you want to win in Hamilton. So let's discuss that. What was the being of that and of this move down the QEW from Toronto? I mean, the Rock had started playing at Maple Leaf Gardens, I think.
Yeah,
and then they played
first year. Was that Cops?
Yeah. Oh, that's right. As
the Ontario
Raiders,
yeah,
right?
Sure.
Right. So then they go down there. And then you make the decision to First Ontario Centre here in Hamilton. What was the reasoning behind that?
Wow, it was pretty complicated. I mean, yes, so they played their first year as the Ontario Raiders and Cops. Then they went to Maple Leaf Gardens and became the Toronto Rock and played there for, I believe, 3 years. At that time, Scotiabank opened, and they moved to Scotiabank Arena and played there from, I think it was 99 until... we have moved to Hamilton. I bought the team in 2009, and we'd played there our whole time. Listen, it's I kind of say that's the most expensive building in the country, rightfully so. It's as busy as can be with the Maple Leafs and the Raptors and the concerts, and the owner of the building is the major tenant, and with the Leafs and the there was just a lot of issues for us. Dates being a huge thing, being downtown Toronto, cost of doing business down there, whether it just be renting a facility, but, doing the marketing things, spending your money to make sure you're letting everyone know what's going on. It's just a different world.
You can be buried, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I never wanted to leave. My kind of goal was always to find a way and get back to the days when they were selling out that building and all those things. But just kind of became clear to me that wasn't going to be happening there. I don't think there's a large lacrosse fan right in the downtown core of Toronto. So everyone's kind of coming into the city, and, over 20 years, that's become more of a challenge to get into Toronto.
That's right.
On a Friday. And, back to my scheduling thing, we played on Friday nights. And, it's tough for people. Like, if you live in Oakville, you have to leave Oakville at 5 o'clock on a Friday night to get downtown and for a 7:30 game and just all the things. It was very challenging. So, COVID hit and things kind of changed with MLSE a bit, and just slowly but surely, and not to take shots at them because we had a great relationship over the years, but, things just started going a little worse in my favor as a tenant, and, I understood it, whatever, but started to explore my options. And my biggest thing all along was I didn't want to go to a smaller arena because I believe we can get more people out. We were averaging about 9,000 fans a game, I think. So there's not a lot of arenas in the area. You got Rico, which was downtown anyways.
Yeah.
And you really have FirstOntario Center, and really those are the big. FirstOntario Center, 17,000 seat arena that, and the way everything's now played out with these renovations coming, I'm excited. Listen, a lot of nerves and a lot of questioning yourselves and a lot of once I make this decision, I'm not going back.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not that guy. And, hey, listen, at one point or another, it was, I remember talking to Terry Giverson and Michelle, my people, and just saying, we're doing it. We're just doing it. And, what are we, 3 years later now, maybe? Great decision. It was definitely the right decision. It's been awesome. It's continuing to grow and evolve, and there's lots of exciting things happening, and we've been welcomed with open arms, and Hamilton's our home, and our players love it here, and they're not even happy we're going to have to go for a year and play Mississauga.
That's true.
Next year because of the renovations, because they want to be here, and they love it. So it's been awesome. I think the games are a little more exciting, a little more kind of old school rockish with the crowds, and the people of Hamilton have been very supportive of the team, which is good to see. And we try and do our part on the floor in the community. I hooked up with your boy Simone a few weeks ago because after one game he's tweeting I gotta get back down to a game. I'm like, DM him just let's go.
Yeah.
You're welcome to come sit in my box and we'll catch a game. And he's like, what about this week? And I'm like, let's go. And he came down, and that's the first time I'd met him. You talk about a great athlete leader for community and Hamilton and all that. I was just everyone coming up to him. I was just kind of blown away by him as a person and a guy, and it was really cool. But I think it's an awesome atmosphere. That building's great for our league. It's great for our team. Yep. We've generally had a very good record there. We dropped 2 in a row this year. Both our losses are at home. But, anyone that's never been, all the people that have been there, they're coming back. Anyone that hasn't been there,
it's clearly a revival. And
it's affordable entertainment for a family. Even this weekend, our Bussy in Vegas and he was with us all weekend from the moment we landed at Vegas till we dropped us off at the airport in San Diego. He'd never been to a game, never seen a game. Came to our game on Friday night, and he wouldn't stop talking to me about it afterwards. He's just blown away. And then Saturday night, of course, he's like, I'm coming. I'm not sitting in the bus. I'm coming to watch this again. And then after the game, he's like, I'm going to be following you guys. Listen, it's just over 2 hours, highly entertaining, start to finish. I like to believe we put on a good, affordable entertainment package for anyone. You don't have to.
But that's what sports is now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You don't. It's not a game you have to know. Like you go, I don't know lacrosse. Who cares? Come out, watch it. You'll leave. Asking questions maybe because you enjoyed yourself and whatever. And we'll continue to do it. I mean, we're in a tough spot with next year going to the Paramount Center and you're going to have to play in a smaller arena. But my kind of where my head's at is, I really, just like if we could possibly host that win a championship this year in that building, would be the last thing to really happen in that building in its current state.
Never thought of it that way. That's true. Yeah.
And then, really we'd be coming back. We wouldn't be the first thing to reopen it, but we'd be coming back really in the early days of it reopening, and it's exciting, man. I mean, listen to Tim Lewicki talk about what they're doing and all the things, and it's Hamilton's kind of slowly over this time, like it's definitely becomes a part of you being involved in here.
Okay,
I would say because.
Well, let me throw this to you because this is the feedback I get, and this is a tough one for you.
Yeah, there's no tough ones, bud.
There are people out there that have told me they are angry with you.
Yeah, I know what you're going to say here before you say it.
Well, no, and I think it has to be addressed because that is what there are Hamilton sports fans that are out there that are saying, some that are as much as saying, I'm not going until it becomes the Hamilton Rock and not the Toronto Rock.
We're going to miss him.
I'm sure you would because I think you want everyone in your building.
Absolutely.
But why not? Why not the Hamilton Rock and the Toronto Rock? Because from what I'm hearing you say and from what I believe and from what I see your fan base, because I've always said, I mean, as going back to my days as the PR guy of the Hamilton Bengals and the Burlington Chiefs Junior A program, that this area, St. Catharines, as you said, as far as Orangeville, this area is huge in lacrosse and probably bigger fans of lacrosse than downtown Toronto.
Yeah.
Why is this team not called the Hamilton Rock?
Well, the number one reason probably why it's not changed and hasn't changed and probably isn't going to change is just really from a brand standpoint. I mean, we've invested millions and millions and millions of dollars in the Toronto Rock brand, which is expanded into the Toronto Rock Athletic Center, and it's just very complicated. And really, to me, the Toronto Rock has always, back to long before I owned the team and whatever, like they've always been the only team in Ontario. Toronto is the major center in the Ontario market, more so than Ottawa, Toronto is and it's just, it's always been that way. So I always felt like as the Toronto Rock, we always represented Hamilton and St. Catharines and Guelph and London and Kitchener, and while we were the Toronto Rock and playing our games downtown in Toronto. Just from a brand awareness and things like that, it recognize, more people to stumble across us and become familiar with our product and our brand. So, that's why it's always been that way. And I don't feel like we need to change that. It bothers me to think that they're really, we're 3-4 years later, if you're a hardcore enough sports fan and want to support a team and this and that, I find it hard to believe that, you could still sit away because we're called the Toronto Rock. I mean,
maybe there's got, I don't know if this has it. Maybe it's got something to do with the fact that there's that CFL thing, right? And there's this Toronto Hamilton thing.
But what about and that is a great point, and I get that. I've been to a game at Ivor Wynn on Labor.
What it's like.
I've been to Ivor Wynn on Labor Day weekend wearing an Argo jersey. So I've seen it.
Okay.
I'll never forget. I remember I was probably 16 at the time, and I can remember hearing a guy behind me say, I don't care if I'm going to spend the night in jail, but I'm going to beat up an Argo fan today. And I was like, oh, my God, what am I doing here? And we're probably wearing, like, Rocket Ishmael jerseys or listen, I think I'm a Ticats guy now. But
thank you.
So you're right. There is that Toronto Hamilton CFL rivalry is great, but to me, it ends there. Like, what about the Toronto Maple Leafs? What about the Toronto Raptors? I mean, there's a lot of people that live in Hamilton and St. Catharines and all these surrounding.
But those teams don't play in Hamilton, though.
They don't.
Okay.
They don't. And listen, I mean, like I said, so when you kind of go back to it, I mean, it would be really tough and really challenging for me and financially very, very expensive.
Right.
To change it to that. And then there's always, but listen, Hamilton's our home. We do the Steel City jerseys, to kind of, we want people, we're not shy about where home is for the Toronto Rockets in Hamilton. It's at the FirstOntario Center.
I think as a community thing, we've seen you invest in the community.
Yeah.
Your Indigenous night the other night. To me, that is
Smile Zone thing coming up where we're doing stuff with youth centers and hospitals and redoing rooms and stuff like that. Like it's. I get it. I get and respect the Hamilton Tiger Cats Toronto Argonaut rivalry because it's as good as they get in sports. I like to think it's a lot like our Toronto Buffalo rivalry and our league.
Fair.
I'd hate to think that someone's really staying away because of that, because to me, nothing's changed. We always represented them and whatever. So yes, we do play here. And some people have said to me, well, why don't you call them the Ontario Rock?
No.
But to me, if it was, then you're covering everyone, and I get that. But, I don't know if that would be the happy kind of end. And then,
I don't like the sound of it.
To me, if you were ever going to change, I think you would probably go to Hamilton. But it's just it's a lot more complicated than people think than just
the copyrights and all. There's a lot.
There's a lot invested in it.
Sure.
And just global brand awareness, and some people might laugh at that, but that's something we work on. And we're away, and there's a lot, it's a lot easier to explain where we're from when we say we're from Toronto. And I say that with all due respect. I know I've rubbed people the wrong way a couple times with things I've said, but that's just the reality of it. And but it's followed up by, we don't actually play in Toronto. We play in Hamilton. That's our home.
And not going anywhere.
And proud of. And not going anywhere. This isn't, this is home.
Yeah.
This is home.
That's an important part, and I appreciate your honesty with that, because that is something I've certainly have heard. I've questioned it in some respects. I mean, I try to call it the Rock as much as possible because people get mad at me. Right?
Well, we use Rock City a lot because
Rock City for sure.
That's kind of our thing, and we're sensitive to it. Like we don't want to annoy our Hamilton fans.
No, of course not.
And I think it is really that hardcore kind of Ticat Hamilton person. I think if you're not from Hamilton and you're not a hardcore Tiger Cats fan, then you don't care if they're the Toronto Rock or the Hamilton Rock.
I just want to go see a great lacrosse game.
It's those sports fans, and we'd love to have them because maybe they'll come on the games we wear Steel City or black and silver, or black and gold.
You just talked about it, the passionate fan base. And you know what? I've again, for all the years that I've known you, Jamie, there's been a passion.
Yeah.
And I just kind of want to touch a couple things that drive you other than business and other than the team. There's something about we got a guy right here in this building here. He was on the Sportsline Podcast here. You two are the number one Denver Bronco fans. Now, the only difference is that with you, out of nowhere, you just find yourself in Denver. And I didn't even know you had season tickets.
Well, so, okay, back when we used to bump into each other, those days, what I used to do was, it was so tough to get a seat in Mile High Stadium that I used to go on the road on the East Coast and follow them whenever they played on the East Coast. I'd go to a game, and that's what you're talking about. So when they built the new stadium in Denver in '99, I bought 4 club seasons tickets, and now it was like, well, instead of going to places on the East Coast, I'm just going to go to Denver. And so, I would go to, some years I'd go to 6 or 7 games, and I'd literally fly in on, Saturday morning, spend the night, go to the game, fly home Monday morning. And it was kind of like whatever. So I still have those seasons tickets to date. I have not been a lot there really in the last 5 years. My one son Josh went to DU, so he kind of rode those seats for 4 years,
Right.
and COVID went on, so traveling at that time, and I got to be honest with you, I haven't been too happy with them the last couple of years. They haven't really been giving me the urge to jump on a plane and fly there for the weekend. I've kind of got a 1B team right now, and I've kind of jumped on your back here with the Bills.
Right on, brother. Right on.
My wife's left my Broncos and gone to the Bills. One of my sons.
They're a likable team.
One of my sons. Listen, Josh Allen is my favorite player in the league, and to me, as an owner, GM of whatever team, I think I got that in Challen Rogers, but it's not only is he one of the best talents in the league, he's like a super young man, a guy that you want representing your franchise. And, I really believe, and, a lot of people laugh, whatever. I think Josh Allen's I really think he's the best player in the league. And I know he gets ripped for all these things and whatever, but I mean, listen, team sports is so much more than one guy.
That's right.
And I just think he is so talented and such a good representative of that team. And to me, he's the guy that, took a Bill Hader from back in the days.
You were.
And he's now made me I get ripped from friends because, I'm such a big Allen fan, and I might be wearing a Bills hat here and there, and it's like calling me a traitor because my Broncos suck and all this. So, but yeah, listen, love the NFL. My, wife, kids love it. It was funny being in San Diego this weekend because that's where I saw my first Super Bowl and saw John and do the helicopter and beat the Packers and saw them win.
What an end of career!
Yeah, and then won the next year in Miami, and yeah, man, what another great. The NFL's, always been a big part.
It's insane. And you've always been a big fan.
The best.
One other thing, but we're going to end on this because, and I do remember the beginning of this, and I remember someone telling me this too, and I'm like, there's no way he's going down to this. There's no way he's going to Vegas for this. Is he this good? The World Series of Poker.
Yeah, you know what? I've played in it I've probably played in the main event 10 times, maybe.
That's outstanding,
maybe
dude.
Even 50. Well, listen, all it takes is 10 grand to walk up to the cage and put it down, and you can do it too. It's been awesome, and I was in Vegas for I said I haven't been to Denver in a while. I hadn't been to Vegas since probably the last time I played in the World Series of Poker, which was probably just pre-COVID, and. Yeah, it's wild, man. It's really cool that you can go. I played 1 year with Greg Raymer, the Fossilman after he won that. I had one year. I and people laugh when they say I finished 300 and I think it was 363rd, but there was 9,000 people in that event. I think I got paid 50 or 60 grand for it. It's just wild, man. I played One time I sat at the table with Ray Romano all day, and I'm telling you, like you couldn't buy that entertainment. Like and just like some poker greats, some personalities, some sport. Like it's just wild. Everyone, because like I said to you earlier, like you can just. I mean, you can win your seats in through tournaments, and I did that a bunch of times, which was kind of cool when you play in a smaller tournament and win it, and then you get your seat into that. But anyone can just show up and pay their entry fee, and what other. And I'm not going to say sport because people are going to yell at me and say poker's not a sport. But in what other kind of thing can you just walk up there and put your name down and play with the best of the best? And there's nothing like it. Like you can't just go show up and pay some amount and be golfing with Tiger Woods or playing basketball with Michael Jordan or whatever. But you could go play against Daniel Negreanu and the Phil Hellmuths of the world, and rest in peace, but like the Doyle Brunson.
Oh, the Brunson.
Like there's one. Like you could go play against Doyle Brunson. Like this is a guy that played way back in the day, with guns in their pockets in Texas, and it's wild. So I'll get.
When you
back
win a hand, is it like a high?
The main event specifically is an absolute marathon. So, that one's like, especially today, like it can go on 8-9 days, and you might get a day off at the beginning here or there, but there's the nerves of putting yourself all in those situations. I think you get a big high when, you're probably losing. You put yourself in an all-in situation and you're trailing and you hit that. But, you definitely don't want to be living by that. That's great when it happens, but like don't be relying on that to happen every time. So, hey, listen, it's wild. It's it's like anything else. The more you do it, the more comfortable you feel, the less intimidated. Like who's sitting across from me and all these things. But it's a lot of fun, and I look forward to getting back down there and doing it again.
Well, Jamie, it's been great catching up with you, and I'm happy to hear and see that you're living well.
Yeah.
You're doing well. You're living out some dreams. I'm telling you, back in the day, who knew what was going to happen?
No,
who knew what was going to happen?
Absolutely.
And here you are, running a franchise and a sports franchise and doing it well and representing Toronto, Hamilton, Ontario, all of us very, very well. We know the Rock is a legendary brand, and it continues to grow with all the great things that you're doing in the community. So thank you on behalf of everyone, because we love lacrosse in this area.
Well,
and you got a big game this Friday, this Saturday.
Listen, you gotta get down to a game.
I want the box. If Simone's in the box, I want to be in the box.
Anytime you get the same invite. Anytime you want to come down, there's always a spot for you in my box, and I keep it low key. We don't bring too many people in there because I like to move around. I'm a pretty animated guy. You get fired up.
I know you do.
Like, I think Simone was pretty I'm thinking to myself, this probably doesn't want to get from the owner of the Ticats when
there is a big difference between you and Bob Young.
Little bit of a gap there, and but no, listen, man, I'd love to have you down. Come check it out.
I'll be there. Thank you so much, Jamie.
Right on. Thank you.
Continued success.
Thank you.
All right, folks. Well, there is your Sportsline podcast for the day. If you do know of an extra special athlete, team, or event to promote, we do want to hear from you. Please smash that thumbs up, like, subscribe, and share button. And if you do have a comment, we like it because we appreciate your feedback. For the wonderful people that make the Sportsline podcast possible, thank you so very much, and we'll check you out tomorrow.